Over the past 6 years, I had poured over $300,000 into keeping their comfortable little world afloat. They ridiculed me and called me a nobody, and I never thought I'd be the type of person to cut off family. But after what happened last weekend, I don't see another choice. This has been building for years, but I kept quiet, thinking it was the right thing to do. I thought taking care of them was honoring my parents' memory. I thought they would appreciate what I was doing for them. I was wrong. I'm Caleb, 30 years old, and for the past 6 years, I've been financially supporting my Aunt Donna, Uncle Frank, and my two cousins, Tyler and Jordan, without them knowing. When my parents passed away in a car accident, they left behind a trust fund meant to help the family in times of need. At first, I didn't mind stepping up. They were struggling, and I had the ability to make sure they kept their home, their cars, and their way of life. I let them believe the money was coming from some government assistance program for families of accident victims. I never corrected them because, at the time, I figured it didn't matter. Family helps family, right? Looking back, I see how stupid that was. I don't live extravagantly. I drive a 2010 Honda, live in a simple apartment, and don't buy expensive things. Not because I can't afford them. I do well for myself, but because my parents taught me the value of money. My family, on the other hand, learned the value of spending other people's money. For years, I've been covering 75% of their mortgage, their car payments, their vacations, and even Uncle Frank's country club membership. And not once, have they ever shown the slightest bit of gratitude. This all came to a head last Sunday at family dinner. I arrived with a homemade casserole, my mom's recipe. Aunt Donna, of course, assumed I had bought it from some cheap grocery store. She barely acknowledged me as I walked in, too busy admiring the new granite countertops they were having installed in their kitchen. The same kitchen renovation they expected my government assistance to cover. Tyler and Jordan were showing off their latest purchases, a Rolex and a designer suit, respectively. Jordan made a joke about how I never dressed to impress. I ignored it like I always do. Then came the real insult. They were talking about their upcoming vacation to Florida, laughing about how much fun they were going to have. That's when I realized something. I hadn't been invited. I sat there, silent, chewing my food as they toasted to working hard and enjoying life. Uncle Frank actually had the audacity to say, "Some of us deserve nice things." I knew for a fact that their entire trip, down to the flights and resort, was booked on a credit card I was paying off. I should have left then and there, but I stayed. Maybe I thought it couldn't get worse. I was wrong. Aunt Donna looked at me, took a sip of wine, and said, "You know, Caleb, you'll always be a worthless nobody, just like your father before he got lucky." The room went silent. Even my cousins looked uncomfortable. No one defended me. No one called her out. They just went back to their drinks. I didn't say a word. I calmly finished my meal, cleaned my plate, and excused myself, saying I had work in the morning. As I walked out, I heard Aunt Donna chuckling, saying, "Maybe we should start a GoFundMe for poor Caleb." They didn't see me stop in the hallway. They didn't see me pull out my phone and open my banking app. They didn't see me start making calls to my financial advisor. They have no idea what's coming. And the best part? They deserve every bit of what's about to happen. The ride home felt different. I wasn't angry. I was clear. It was like something inside me had finally clicked into place. I had spent years justifying their behavior, telling myself they didn't know any better, that maybe if I just kept helping them, they'd eventually respect me. But that night, hearing them laugh about my so-called failures while they lived off my money, something inside me broke in the best way possible. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, I had already made up my mind. I sat in my car for a few minutes, staring at the steering wheel, thinking about the numbers. Over the past 6 years, I had poured over $300,000 into keeping their comfortable little world afloat. Their 4-bedroom house, their luxury cars, their country club membership, their vacations, their shopping sprees. All of it had been funded by me. And in return, they treated me like garbage. I checked my phone again. Tyler had just posted an Instagram story, clinking glasses with Jordan and captioning it, "Some people just don't know how to invest in themselves." The irony nearly made me laugh. Instead of responding, I dialed my financial advisor. It was late, but I didn't care. When he picked up, I didn't even bother with small talk. "I want to cut them off," I said, voice steady. "Completely." There was a pause on the other end. Then, "I was wondering when you'd finally say that." We talked for nearly an hour. There were some legalities to sort out, but it was possible. The trust couldn't just be shut down overnight, but all payments could be stopped within 60 days. That meant the mortgage, the car payments, the credit cards, all of it would become their responsibility in 2 months. 60 days to watch them scramble. 60 days to watch their fake wealth crumble around them. 60 days before they finally realize who's really been keeping them afloat. I went to bed that night for the first time in years feeling at peace. Tomorrow, the countdown begins. I woke up the next morning feeling lighter than I had in years. There was no second guessing, no guilt gnawing at the edges of my mind. Just clarity. I made myself coffee, sat down at my desk, and pulled up the financial records. Everything was already organized, spreadsheets detailing every payment, every withdrawal, every dime I had spent keeping my ungrateful family afloat. Looking at the numbers made my stomach turn. Over the last 6 years, I had paid over $300,000 for people who mocked me behind my back. Their mortgage? $3,200 a month, 75% covered by me. Jordan's 2021 Dodge Challenger? $600 a month, fully covered. Tyler's 2022 Mustang? $550 a month, covered. Their credit card bills, vacations, shopping sprees? All of it traced back to me. I had been living in a modest apartment, driving an old car, eating home-cooked meals while they treated themselves to luxury, convinced they were better than me. And after all that, they still had the audacity to sneer at my so-called financial struggles. I had given them everything, and they had given me nothing but disrespect. That ended today. I spent the next few hours drafting an email with my financial advisor. The message was simple and to the point. In 60 days, all financial support will end. They would be responsible for their mortgage, car payments, credit cards, and anything else I had been covering. There would be no negotiation, no warning, no room for arguments. I scheduled the email to go out at exactly 9 a.m. the next morning. Then, for the first time in years, I turned off my phone and went out for the day. When I turned my phone back on around noon, it nearly exploded. 67 missed calls, 112 text messages, 15 voicemails. The family group chat was in full meltdown mode. Aunt Donna had sent 5 voice messages, her tone shifting from confusion to panic to full-blown rage. "Caleb, there has to be some mistake. This email can't be real. Call me back immediately." Uncle Frank's text was short and to the point. "What the hell is this? You can't just do this to us." Tyler had sent a string of messages. "Dude, tell me this is a joke. How are we supposed to make these payments? WTF, man?" Jordan, of course, was the most dramatic. "Are you serious right now? You can't just pull the plug on us like this. Some of us have responsibilities." I almost laughed at that one. Responsibilities? The same guy who had just quit his job to find himself was suddenly worried about financial obligations? I ignored all of them. By the afternoon, Aunt Donna showed up at my apartment. She didn't even knock, just started pounding on the door like the building was on fire. "Caleb, open this door right now. You can't do this to us." When I finally opened the door, she barged in, her face red, mascara running, clutching her phone like it held the answer to all her problems. She shoved it in my face, the email still open on the screen. "This is a joke, right? This has to be a joke." I folded my arms and looked at her calmly. "No joke. You have 60 days to figure it out." She sputtered, eyes wild, searching for some kind of leverage. "But the mortgage, the bills, how are we supposed to afford all this? We have a system, Caleb. You can't just abandon your family like this." I raised an eyebrow. "A system? You mean the system where I pay for everything while you insult me behind my back?" That shut her up for half a second, but then she switched tactics, her voice turning syrupy sweet. "We didn't mean any of that, honey. We were just joking. You know we love you. Your family." I let out a dry chuckle. "Funny how I'm only family when you need money." Before she could argue, Uncle Frank stormed in. I don't know if she had texted him or if he had been lurking nearby, but the second he saw me, his face turned an ugly shade of purple. "You ungrateful little shit. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us." I tilted my head, genuinely curious. "What exactly have you done for me, Frank? Aside from belittle me at every opportunity while living off my money." That got him. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Then, as if summoned by the sheer chaos, Tyler and Jordan arrived. Tyler looked shell-shocked, like someone had just told him Santa Claus wasn't real. Jordan, on the other hand, was vibrating with rage. "What about my car?" he shouted. "I just quit my job last week. How the hell am I supposed to make the payments?" I shrugged. "Not my problem anymore." Aunt Donna clutched my arm, eyes desperate. "Please, Caleb, let's just talk about this. We can work something out." I gently pulled away. "We are talking, Donna, and I already worked something out. You have 2 months to figure out how to pay your own bills. Maybe sell the Rolex, cancel the vacation, start budgeting like an adult. Whatever you do, though, it's no longer my concern." She started crying. Real tears this time, not the fake, manipulative kind. I didn't feel anything. No guilt, no remorse, just a quiet sense of satisfaction. I walked to the door, holding it open. "I think we're done here." They didn't move at first, just stood there, stunned. Uncle Frank muttered something under his breath about lawyers, but even he knew there was nothing they could do. Finally, one by one, they shuffled out. Jordan was the last to leave, glaring at me like I had personally ruined his life. "You're gonna regret this," he hissed. I met his glare with a smirk. I doubt it. The door shut behind them, and for the first time in years, I was truly alone. No obligations, no secret payments draining my account, no fake family dinner invitations where I had to sit through their judgment. Just me, my fully paid-off car, my modest but comfortable apartment, and the knowledge that in 60 days, their entire world would come crashing down, and I would sleep like a baby. The silence in my apartment felt different now, lighter. No lingering obligations, no pressure to keep up the lie. I sat on my couch, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, sipping a beer, and letting the reality sink in. It was over. After 6 years of funding their entitled, extravagant lifestyle, I had finally cut them off. There was no going back now, and I didn't want to. I knew the real chaos hadn't even started yet, though. The moment those bills started rolling in and the payments weren't covered, the real meltdown would begin. I almost wished I could see their faces when they realized I wasn't bluffing. The next morning, I woke up to even more missed calls, texts, and emails. It was becoming a routine at this point. The family group chat had turned into a war zone. Uncle Frank was demanding I come to my senses before it was too late. Aunt Donna had gone full guilt trip mode, sending messages like, "You're breaking this family apart. Your parents would be ashamed of you." Jordan was still furious, his messages filled with all caps and expletives. Tyler had gone oddly quiet, which told me he was either panicking or trying to figure out his next move. I didn't care. By mid-afternoon, I got a call from my financial advisor. He sounded amused as he told me, "They've already tried calling the bank to demand an explanation. I think they actually believe there's been some kind of mistake." I laughed. Of course, they did. People like them never think about where the money comes from, only that it magically appears when they need it. I checked Instagram out of curiosity, and there it was. Aunt Donna had posted a long, dramatic rant about how some people don't appreciate family, and when you give and they throw it in your face, you realize who truly cares. The comment section was exactly what I expected, her friends offering sympathy, relatives who didn't know the full story saying things like, "Stay strong, Donna," and "Family is everything." I almost wanted to reply, but I knew it wasn't worth it. Let them play the victims. Reality would hit them soon enough. Then I saw the real kicker. Jordan had posted a story, a picture of his Challenger with the caption, "Gotta enjoy it while I can." That made me laugh. He was right. Because in exactly 60 days, it was going to be someone else's car. A few days passed, and things started unraveling fast. I heard from a mutual friend that Uncle Frank had already tried applying for a loan to cover the mortgage. He was denied. Apparently, their credit wasn't as great as they pretended. I wasn't surprised. When you rely on free money for 6 years, you don't exactly build good financial habits. Tyler, who had been the quietest, finally broke his silence with a simple text. "Dude, can we talk?" I thought about ignoring it, but something told me this conversation might actually be worth having. We met at a small diner later that evening. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. "Okay," he said, stirring his coffee. "I need to understand something. Was this really all you? The money, I mean." I raised an eyebrow. "What do you think?" He exhaled slowly, rubbing his temples. "Jesus Christ." He leaned back in the booth, shaking his head. I don't get it. Why would you do all that for us and never say anything?" I shrugged. "Because I thought I was helping. Because I thought family was supposed to take care of each other. Turns out, I was wrong." He was quiet for a long time before finally saying, "I didn't know." And for the first time, I actually believed him. Unlike Donna, Frank, and Jordan, Tyler had never been outright cruel. He followed their lead, sure, but he wasn't like them. "Well, now you do," I said, finishing my drink. "So what are you going to do about it?" He hesitated before sighing. "I don't know, but I need to figure out how to start handling my own money." "You think you could?" "Nope." I cut him off immediately. "Not my job anymore." He nodded, and to his credit, he didn't push it. We sat in silence for a bit before he said, "For what it's worth, I get why you're doing this." I wasn't looking for his approval, but I appreciated the honesty. Good. The next week was nothing short of spectacular. I got a call from a very frustrated Uncle Frank, demanding I fix this mess. Apparently, the kitchen renovation had been put on hold because the contractor hadn't received the next installment of the payment. A $175,000 project, frozen in place. I could picture Donna standing in her half-finished kitchen, surrounded by exposed drywall, realizing that her dream makeover wasn't happening. That alone made my entire week. The Florida vacation? Canceled. Turns out, when the final payment didn't go through, the resort automatically refunded the deposit back to my account. I considered sending them a screenshot just to rub it in, but I figured the silence from the travel agency was enough of a shock. Then came the final humiliation. Uncle Frank's beloved country club revoked his membership, the same place where he loved to parade around, acting like he was some kind of self-made success, was now sending him notices about his outstanding balance. A friend of mine who worked at the club told me Frank actually tried convincing the manager to give him an extension. The answer? A very satisfying no. By the time week 2 rolled around, they were in full-blown panic mode. I started getting texts from extended family members, cousins, aunts, uncles. People who had never bothered to check in on me suddenly wanted to talk. Aunt Donna must have been running around trying to drum up sympathy. It didn't work. Nobody was offering to bail them out. One morning, I woke up to a new text from Jordan. "I hope you're happy, asshole. The bank is threatening to take my car." I grinned and turned off my phone. It had only been 2 weeks. The real show was just beginning. By the end of the second week, things had gone from bad to worse for them, and I was enjoying every second of it. The calls had become less frequent, the texts more desperate, and the carefully curated image they had built was beginning to crack. I hadn't responded to a single message since my conversation with Tyler. I wanted to see just how long it would take before the weight of their new reality truly set in. I got my answer sooner than expected. Monday morning, I was getting ready for work when I heard pounding on my apartment door. Not knocking, pounding. I already knew who it was before I even checked the peephole. Aunt Donna, standing outside like a woman on a mission, looking far less put together than usual. Her expensive hair treatment was frizzing out. Her designer purse looked out of place paired with the sweatpants she was wearing, and her face was a mess of smeared mascara. "Caleb, open this door right now." I leaned against the doorframe for a moment, debating whether I should even let her in. But honestly, I was curious. I unlocked the door and stepped aside. She stormed in without so much as a hello, her phone gripped so tightly in her hand that her knuckles were turning white. "You did this to us," she hissed, turning to face me. I raised an eyebrow. "Did what exactly?" She let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Don't play stupid. The mortgage is due in a few days, and we don't have the money. The bank is already calling. The car payments aren't going through. We had to cancel the kitchen renovation, and the Labor Day barbecue is ruined." I just stared at her, and her mouth fell open slightly, like she couldn't believe my lack of concern. "And, Caleb, we are about to lose everything." I shrugged. "Not my problem." That set her off. "Not your problem," she screeched, her voice rising an octave. "You're supposed to help your family. That's what your parents would have wanted." Hearing her mention my parents like that sent a fresh wave of anger through me, but I kept my voice even. "No, my parents wanted to help family in need, not family who acts like entitled brats while treating me like garbage." She opened her mouth to argue, but I wasn't done. "Do you even hear yourself, Donna? You just said it yourself. You're about to lose everything. That's interesting, considering none of it was ever actually yours. Your house? The bank owns it. Your cars? The lenders own them. Your vacations? Your country club membership? Your shopping sprees? You never actually earned any of it." "I did. You were just the one spending it." She was shaking her head, but I could see the realization starting to hit her. Her voice was quieter when she spoke again. Caleb, we didn't know. If we had known, we would have. I cut her off. You would have what? Treated me with respect? Acted like I mattered? You want me to believe that the only reason you've treated me like a second-class citizen all these years is because you thought I was poor? I let out a bitter laugh. That doesn't make you any less of a terrible person, Donna. If anything, it makes you worse. For the first time, she didn't have a response. She just stood there, breathing heavily, gripping her phone like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. Then Uncle Frank showed up. I should have expected it. I don't know if Donna had texted him to come, or if he had been lurking nearby, but suddenly, he was shoving his way inside. You ungrateful little punk, he spat. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. I actually laughed at that one. Everything you've done for me? What exactly is that, Frank? Can you name a single thing? He was seething. We took you in after your parents died. We made sure you had a place at our table. And all the while, you were sitting there, letting us think you were some broke loser while secretly controlling our finances like some kind of sick game. I shook my head, disgusted. You didn't take me in. I never once lived with you. I never once needed your help. I was the one helping you, you arrogant asshole. And if you had even a fraction of self-awareness, you'd realize just how pathetic it is that the person you spent years mocking is the same one who was keeping your entire world from falling apart. Frank took a step toward me, his face twisted in rage. You think you're so damn smart, huh? You think you can just cut us off and walk away like nothing ever happened? I met his glare without flinching. That's exactly what I'm doing. Donna, who had been silent until now, suddenly reached for my arm. Please, Caleb, she whispered, her eyes desperate. We can fix this. Just one more month. Just help us get through this, and we'll figure it out. I pulled away. No. Her expression crumpled. But we're family. I looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I felt absolutely nothing. No guilt. No obligation. Just clarity. No, Donna. We're not. That was it. I walked to the door and held it open. Get out. Frank looked like he was ready to take a swing at me, but even he knew better. Donna let out a broken sob as she stepped past me. Frank followed, his eyes still burning with hatred. As soon as they were outside, I shut the door and locked it. Then, for good measure, I blocked their numbers. An hour later, I got a text from Jordan. You're going to regret this. I smirked and turned off my phone. No, Jordan, I won't. 2 weeks passed, and the silence was louder than the screaming. After the last confrontation, the calls and texts slowed to a trickle. No more threats. No more fake apologies. No more guilt trips. It was almost disappointing. I had expected them to put up more of a fight. But then, I realized something. They weren't silent because they had given up. They were silent because they were planning something. I found out exactly what that was when my bank notified me of an attempt to access my trust account. It didn't take a genius to figure out who was behind it. They must have been desperate enough to think they could convince the bank that this was all just a misunderstanding, that if they talked to the right person, they could somehow get access to the money again. I had already locked everything down, so their attempts failed, but it told me one important thing. They weren't just in trouble. They were drowning. That same evening, I got a text from Tyler. Dude, you might want to check Facebook. I hadn't looked at any of their social media in days, but now, curiosity got the better of me. I opened Aunt Donna's profile, and there it was, a full-blown pity party. She had written a long, dramatic post about how some people turn their backs on family in their time of need, how certain ungrateful individuals had taken advantage of their generosity, and how it was shocking to see how selfish some people truly are. She never named me outright, but it was obvious who she was talking about. The comments section was filled with sympathy from people who had no idea what was actually going on. Stay strong, Donna. You've always been such a giving person. I can't believe someone would do this to you. Family is supposed to be there for each other. So sad to see greed get in the way. I laughed. Greed? That was rich, coming from people who had spent years living off money they never earned. Then I saw the GoFundMe link. I clicked on it, and I swear, I nearly choked on my drink. $50,000 goal to help us get back on our feet after being betrayed by someone we trusted. They were actually trying to scam people into paying for their debts. At first, I considered letting it go. Let them beg for money. Let them embarrass themselves. But then I noticed something in the description, something that made my blood boil. After tragically losing a beloved family member, We took in their struggling child and did everything we could to support him. We never asked for anything in return, but now he has abandoned us, leaving us with nothing. They were acting like I had been some charity case, like they had taken me in out of the kindness of their hearts. They wanted people to believe that I had been a burden on them when, in reality, I was the reason they still had a roof over their heads. I could have ignored it. Instead, I made a decision. It was time for the final blow. The next morning, I called a lawyer. I wanted everything legally documented, proof of payments, financial statements, signed agreements, everything. I wanted undeniable, irrefutable evidence of exactly where their money had been coming from for the past 6 years. It took a few days, but once everything was compiled, I sent it to a few trusted relatives, the ones who weren't as close to Donna and Frank, but who still had influence in the family. I didn't say much. Just attached the documents with a simple message. Since Donna and Frank want to tell their side of the story, I figured it was time people saw mine. The fallout was glorious. Within hours, Donna deleted the GoFundMe. I'm guessing someone called her out privately because I saw messages being deleted from her Facebook post before she finally took it down altogether. But the damage was done. People had seen the truth. I got a call from an aunt I hadn't spoken to in years. She wasn't on good terms with Donna but had always stayed neutral. "Caleb," she said, "I had no idea. I am so sorry for the way they treated you." More messages started coming in. Some from extended family members who had been fooled by Donna's sob story, others from old friends who had seen the drama unfold online. One text, though, stood out the most. It was from Tyler. "I know I don't deserve to ask for anything, but can we talk?" I thought about ignoring it, but I was curious. So, we met up again at the same diner. This time, he looked worse than before, bags under his eyes, stress weighing him down. "So," I said, "how's life without free money?" He exhaled heavily, stirring his coffee. "Pretty damn awful. They're losing their minds. Jordan's car got repossessed yesterday. The mortgage is overdue. They're trying to sell stuff, but it's not enough. Donna's panicking. Frank's blaming everyone but himself. It's a complete disaster." I took a sip of my drink. "Sounds about right." Tyler hesitated before saying, "Look, I'm not here to ask for money. I wanted to say I get it now. I didn't before. I was blind to it, or maybe I just didn't want to see it. But after everything, I get why you did what you did." I didn't respond right away. Instead, I watched him, trying to gauge if he was being genuine or just trying to play some angle. He seemed sincere. "So what are you going to do now?" I asked. He shrugged. "I guess I need to figure out how to actually take care of myself. Without a safety net." For the first time, I actually felt a shred of respect for him. He wasn't begging. He wasn't blaming. He was just accepting reality. "Good," I said, finishing my coffee. "You should." He nodded, and that was that. No requests, no expectations, just two people who had finally come to an understanding. That night, as I sat in my fully paid-off apartment, I checked my phone one last time. Another message from Jordan. "I hope you're happy. You ruined our lives." I didn't bother responding. I wasn't the one who ruined their lives. They did that all by themselves. Subscribe now. Turn on the notification ringer so you don't miss a single story.